Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are today. Welcome to the next in the Captivate live streams for the summer live stream series. I'm your regular host, Dan Brown, head of podcaster support and experience here at Captivate. And we'll go through all the details as we normally do. Once we get started, we'll give sort of 4 or 5 minutes for everybody to jump in, join the stream, and then we'll go through the sort of what we're going through today. Some little bit of housekeeping, and then we'll get into the stream itself. So like I say, we'll just I think I'm all coming through okay. I had a little bit of issue with my roadcaster earlier, so I can see some comments coming in. If I'm coming through okay volume wise, let me know. That'd be great. It looks fine, but I can't tell on this end. So tech stuff. I always get tech issues. Always fun to try sort out. But let's see who we've got in so far at the moment. So we got good old Michael. How you doing, buddy? And it's still hot, I'm going to guess, over in Phoenix. Nice dry heat there. Mid-July, well, end of July, I guess. Now, July 23rd, we're cracking through the year. Third week in July. So, yeah, I'd imagine it's still hot over there. Good to see you, bud. Hope you're doing well. Hey, David. Good to see you again from Texas. Amarillo as well. That's going to be... and I've not asked this before, but there's a song called... is it the Road to Amarillo? Na, 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 I think. Is that's going to be based on Amarillo in Texas, right? It's like it's got to be. I feel based on and there. Hope you're doing well today, mate. Hope you're all keeping well. We got good old Ben is on the Captivate team. He's our head of content. So Ben will be in the comments with you guys. So if you've got any comments, etc., drop them in. Ben will pick them up and mark them down for us. And we'll pick them up at the end for our usual live Q&A. Hi, Kipper. Good to see you here, bud. And it was nice catching up with you earlier this week. And I believe you brought a new new person over to Captivate, which is awesome. So thank you for that, Kipper. Hope you're doing well, mate. And yeah, absolutely. Most definitely warm. It's pretty pleasant here today, actually. We've got a nice sort of 27 degrees Celsius, which is maybe 80, I think. High 70s, maybe low 80s Fahrenheit. So that's not too bad. Nice little breeze. I've got the windows closed. Don't want our neighbour in his little drive around tractor mowing the lawn coming into life. Amarillo by morning. So that's the song. It's I used to so when I was back in the UK many years ago, we'd go to a working man's club, and they would always play that if there was like cover bands there, for example, or a local DJ on a Saturday night. That would be one of the songs that always appeared. And if it's a song I'm thinking about, it was fun. And it always brings back that little sort of fun, happy memory of me as an early 20s man. So there you go. That's great. Great to hear. Thank you for confirming. Like I say, Tom, there was some issues before when I was just logging in where it didn't recognize my audio, and I had to do a little bit of shenanigans there. So it's always good to hear it's all coming through. So that's great. Massachusetts. I've never been to Massachusetts. Know the place. Again, keeping the musical theme. I know the song Massachusetts. Was that a Bee Gees one, I think? When the lights go down, I think, Massachusetts. Anyway, great to have you here, Tom. And what's special educator? Is that it looks like it's got your brain on the artwork there, or a brain on the artwork. So special educator, tell us about the podcast, mate. Always, happy to hear and learn new podcasts that are out there. 84 at 8 a.m., which is 12 lower than normal. Yeah, that's a little bit more than I could take, Mr. Michael. I'm not great with heat. Being a Scotsman in Canada, I'm used to cooler temps and cooler weather. Although recently it has been a lot warmer. So yeah, I don't want that in the morning. One of the reasons I normally leave the windows open overnight is get the cool air back in. So when the morning comes, it's a little bit fresher. So that's all good. But yeah, we're going to get started in the next minute or two. So if you just join us, say hello in the comments. Let us know who you are, what your podcast is called, etc. And then we'll go into this week's live stream, which is all about dynamic content, dynamic inserts, etc. So really cool live stream to go through with the AMIE feature, which is the Captivate's in-house dynamic content. And it's a great way to use the platform for not only ads and sponsor messages, but your own stuff like trailer swaps and maybe announcements about your show, stuff like that. So there's a lot of cool features that you can do with it. And we'll be going through that, I would say, in the next 30 minute or two, we'll kick things off. So yeah, definitely a cooler heat, which is always nice. So yeah, like I say, if you do have any questions, let me just bring this up now, actually. So if you do have any questions, we will do a live stream at the end. We're doing a live stream. We'll do a Q&A at the end of the live stream, and we'll pick up any questions you have. So if you've got any questions about dynamic content, dynamic inserts, how AMIE works on Captivate, etc., drop them into the comment section. We've just put question at the front. You can see that with a little ticker at the bottom there. But yeah, just put question at the front, and my good colleague Ben will pick them up and highlight them, and we'll pick them up at the end of the live stream, around about 30, 35 minutes time, maybe 40 minutes, depending on how we go through the stream, etc. And we got Sloan. How we're doing, Sloan? Questionable Wi-Fi. I used to have like Wi-Fi that could be up or down. Like, when it was up, it was great. It was really fast. When it was down, it wasn't so good. So I've now hardwired my router right into the my Mac here, or my router box or whatever I've got here, just to keep it stable. Because yeah, I hear you. But I hope you're keeping well. And I saw you on Reddit last week or this week, I think. We were talking about podcasts and how you use dynamic contents and ads in podcasts for sleep. So that was nice to see you jump in there with a conversation around that. So that was pretty awesome. Former science teacher Tom, who happens to be on the spectrum along with my sons, starting a group of special teachers to support. Wow, that is amazing. That is very, very cool. Former science teacher. So was that high school? Was that elementary? Was that elsewhere? But that's very cool, and great job on that. So the special educator, we were checking that out. But great stuff. Alrighty, so let's jump in. As I mentioned, if you've got any questions, just drop them in the comments below as we go through it, and either Ben will pick it up or I will grab it. And yeah, dynamic pre-roll, or I will grab it at the end and we'll pick them up. But let me just share my screen and make sure we've got the right one that we want to do. So I want to share screen, and I'm going to go to my dashboard here, and then I'm just going to change up the view. So there we go. That's better. Okay, so now you should see the good old chit chat with Claire and Steve, the up and coming podcast. It's taken the world by storm. This is a dummy podcast that we set up for this live stream series, and this will be what we use to go through AMIE with you. But AMIE, if you're not sure what AMIE is, if you're not a Captivate user, or you're a Captivate user but you haven't got around to using AMIE at the moment, AMIE is essentially our in-house dynamic insertion platform. Now you can use it for ads, you can use it for content, sponsor messages, trailer swaps, whole bunch of stuff, intros, outros, whatever you want. But you can see here, really easy to use, and it makes it really super simple to add dynamic ads and content into your podcast, whether that's for individual episodes, at bulk, certain episodes, etc. So a really cool feature that we released a few years back now, and it's one of my most used features when it comes to any of my podcasts. So what we're going to do today is show you how easy it is to use, and then also how easy it is to optimize the dynamic files a little bit so you can work them alongside Captivate's attribution links, which will allow you to track how many clicks and how many people have checked out that link, which is great if you want to, offer a report to sponsors, for example, or other podcasters that you may have done trailer swaps with, or just for your own internal reporting if you're doing internal messages, etc. Okay. So there's a few ways that you can use AMIE. So if I was to create a new episode, for example, you would normally go through your episode creation process. So you would add your MP3 file here ready to publish. So let's just pull in one that I've already uploaded to the content library. So you go through here, you'd update your title. So let's just go put a couple of, this is just like saved stuff that I've got from previous podcasts. So you just enter your title, episode, show notes, etc. And then if you scroll down, you'll now see that you've got dynamic content and ads, which is your AMIE section. Okay, so at the moment, we're just loading the waveform. Now that's mid-roll, pre-roll, and post-roll. So with dynamic content, you have three options. You've got the pre-roll, which is anything before your episode audio starts. So normally if you add a pre-roll to your episode, you will have whatever that message is. So if it's a sponsor message, if it's an introduction to the episode, etc., and you upload that as a pre-roll, that will be placed before your episode audio. Then your episode audio begins after the pre-roll finishes. From there, you can add mid-roll content. So this is content and audio snippets that would be added inside the episode audio. So let's say you've got a 30-minute episode and you want to put a mid-roll message in at about the 15, 16-minute mark. That would be your mid-roll. And this, again, this can be dynamic content that you use for sponsor messages. Maybe you've got a new podcast coming up. Maybe you've got a live stream coming up and you want to tell listeners about your live stream. You can use dynamic content for anything you want, but that's what the mid-roll is. And then you've got your post-roll content. And as it suggests, this happens at the end of the episode audio. So once your episode's finished, if you've got post-roll content, that then plays as soon as the episode finishes. So your pre-roll before the episode audio, mid-roll sort of inside the episode audio, and then post-roll is when the audio finishes and you're just having an outro message, for example. So the way that you can add AMIE is you can either do it all from the episode creation page. So let's say I want to do a pre-roll for this episode. So I can either go to Content Library if I've already uploaded dynamic audio, or I can upload a new file. For this one, I'm going to show you how to upload a file because there's a couple of cool things that you can do once a file is uploaded. So I'm going to go to Browse Files and bring up my, let me just bring up one of these, and I'm going to go trailer here. I'm going to open this one. Okay. So this is going to be my label. So whatever the name of your file is, that's what we'll use as the label for the file. You can change that if you wish. You can you can edit that text, etc. But we will just pull the name of the file. So if you've got like a default editing name, you can change that to be an actual name for the file. Make it easier for you to find. Then you can choose what type it is. So is it a third-party sponsor or advertiser? Is it a trailer swap, which is a promotion with another podcaster? Or is it an internal ad? So again, maybe you're making an announcement about an upcoming live stream, or you've got a new newsletter, anything like that. So once you've chosen this, I'm going to make this a trailer swap because it's a trailer for another podcast, for example. So I'm going to make this a trailer swap. And then you'll notice down here that we've got the show notes section. Now, the show notes section is a really neat feature that automatically adds some details about that content that you're adding here directly to your episode show notes where this dynamic file is added to. So let's say, for example, you've got a sponsor message from brand A, and brand A has a little blurb that you want to read out on your episode. You can also replicate that automatically in the show notes by filling this section out. So let's just type in brand A, brand C. I'm just going to type out brand A show notes title here. And then just a quick blurb. Let's say it's just a mess. But normally you would obviously enter the text here. That would be your host read. Okay. And then you've got attribution link down here. Now, in a previous live stream, if we talked about attribution links and promo features, etc. Attribution links are Captivate's little marketing links that you can create that you can then promote your episode with, or your guest, or your website, or whatever. Whatever the link is, you can create an attribution link. And anytime that link is clicked, Captivate will track that and then report that in your analytics, so you know how many times that's been clicked. So I've already created one called Summer Promo. So I want to assign this particular dynamic piece of content to the Summer Promo and then add dynamic content. So now this will be uploaded to this episode, and you can see here I've got it as pre-roll. Now you've also see here that you've got a tag feature. We always recommend to use the tags because this makes it super easy to identify what dynamic content you might want to remove or replace in a future, update. So let's say you've got a summer promo like this one is, but that's going to the sponsor is only for the summer, and then maybe you've got a new sponsor for fall, and then a new sponsor for winter, etc. Or you've got a Q1 promo, you want to change that up when it comes to Q2, etc. So we always recommend using a tag, and the reason for that is if I do summer promo, which I've already created, and I'm going to create a new one as well called Q2 mid. Okay, so that's a Q2 mid roll. Obviously, we're into Q3 now, but it's a Q2 mid roll. The reason for that is, and I'll show you this in the tag editor, as I mentioned, it makes it super easy for you to update dynamic content at bulk across multiple episodes, as opposed to having to come into every episode one by one and then update your pre-roll, your mid-roll, etc. Okay, so I've set up these two tags there. Now for this episode, let's say I want a mid-roll and I want it roughly halfway through here. Okay, so I select the area I roughly want it to be in, and then I'll go to add slot. Okay, this opens up the new box for you to add your mid-roll file. So I'm going to call this section my mid-roll default. Okay. And I'm going to put it at so at the moment, the timestamp is the 102 here. But let's say I want to make this, I've got a dedicated timestamp of 111, for example. So I can go in and edit the timestamp and then click enter. And you'll see the little marker here move to the correct position. So the cool thing with this is when you're editing your episode audio, if you know where you're going to start putting mid-rolls into your episodes, you can mark the timestamps in your editing software. And when this is pulled into Captivate, we can replicate that for you as a chapter, or you can just, type in the timestamp there for the mid-roll, and that will place exactly the dynamic content where you want it to be based on your editing previously. Okay, so I've got the mid-roll default, and now I want to add my mid-roll there. So this time I'm going to choose it from the content library because I've already uploaded some to that. So for this one, I'm going to do a promo swap. So let's say I'm working with a podcaster, got a similar audience, and we're doing a promo swap with each other's show. So they've sent me their trailer, I sent them my trailer, and we're going to play it for the month of July in each other's episodes. So I'm just going to confirm that I want this episode here. And once again, I can add a tag to that once I've added a file. So this is going to be, let's say I'm going to call this one trailers swaps. Okay, I haven't created this yet, but this is going to be my new tag. So anytime now that I create more episodes, I can automatically add the trailer swap option. So you can see here I've got a mid-roll, but I can also add up to 2 more. You can have up to 3 inserts per slot. So if you've got 3 ads or 2 ads, or you've got 1 trailer swap and 1 sponsor message, etc., you can add all that at the same time. So I'm going to go back to the content library, and let's just see this is my sponsor message. So I'm going to confirm that. And I'm going to make that my Q2 promo. Was it Q2? Oh, I don't want that. Sorry. Add tag. There we go. What did I call it before? Sorry, I just created one, didn't I? Q2 mid. So let's call it that. So Q2 mid. There we go. Okay, so that's in now in there. I can also drag and drop these around. So if I want the sponsor one to go before the trailer one, I can drag and drop there, or I can bring it back down. And as I mentioned, you can have up to 3 of these in each particular slot. So for this timestamp here, the 1 minute, 11 seconds, this would be the 2 ads that go here. And if I wanted to add another one here, I would add a new slot and add my other sponsor messages, trailer swaps, etc. to that new section. So you can have as many ads as you want in an episode, or as many dynamic pieces of content. Our recommendation is when it comes to mid-roll, especially if you're using pre-roll as well, have about 15 minutes of episode audio for each ad. So if you've got a pre-roll, 15 minutes later, that's when you'd want to maybe think about inserting your first ad. If it's like an hour long or 30 minutes long or whatever, think of your audience and the listener experience. Because obviously it's great to have sponsors and advertisers, etc. But if you're poor enough listeners because you've got too many ads or they're not contextual or whatever, it will start to put listeners off. If you're losing listeners, then that's more chance of you losing sponsors and advertisers. Okay, so just be a little bit wary of how many ads you're placing in, etc. But I'm happy with this. I've got 2 mid-rolls in there. And then for post-roll, I want to do an outro, for example. So I've got a dedicated outro that's maybe a call to action about leaving a review or following our social, or following your favorite app, whatever that sounds like. I'm going to add that as my outro. So I'll just put that there. And as you can see, I'm just creating tags as I go as well, and they will be saved by Captivate for future use on other episodes. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I've got my pre-roll, I've got my mid-roll, I've got my outros, etc. So I'm just going to go down, and I'm not going to worry about filling all this out because this is part of the episode creation process, which we covered in one of the early live streams. So let's go to publish this now, and let's just make sure. So now you can see here, it's processing. The little icon that you can see is the dynamic content icon. So if it's green, that means it's been processed and it's part of your episode. Once it's been processed and it's all part of your episode, that's when it will be published and pushed out to podcast apps like Apple, Spotify, etc. If it's not, then, and there you go, it's really quick to process. Generally, it's pretty quick to process the dynamic content. It's only if there's a lot of processing going on at a particular time, because let's say it's a really busy period, it might take a little bit longer, but not much. But you'll know as soon as you see this little green icon, that tells you that the episode is live and that the dynamic content is also live in that episode, and it goes out to the podcast apps. Now, if this is updated on the website, so let me go and open up the Chit Chat website, and I'm going to share this tab now. So you can see here, I've duplicated them a little bit here because I had the two ads in, which I don't want, because I used the two ads for the mid-roll and the pre-roll. But you can see here, because I put show notes, when I filled out the show notes section, if you recall, when I uploaded the AMIE file to start with, we automatically put in the title and the blurb that you enter in the show notes section, and then that tracking link. So anytime someone clicks that link from the show notes or types it into a web browser because you've mentioned it as an audible call to action in your episode, we will track that for you. And as I mentioned, the reason you're seeing duplicates here is because I used the same dynamic piece of content for a pre-roll and a mid-roll, which you really wouldn't use normally. And if you did use it, you would have two versions. So you'd have like a version for your pre-roll and a version for your mid-roll, so you can have a different title and a different show note blurb, which is again great for A/B testing. You can see, does the pre-roll work better than the mid-roll or vice versa? So that's how, that's why you've got duplicates there. But normally, obviously, you wouldn't have the same title and the same blurb because you wouldn't use the same details in multiple dynamic content. So you can see here, come back in. That's gone through perfect, and you can see that the dynamic content is exactly where I want it to appear. And when I press play on the audio, my pre-roll would start, and then it would kick into my episode, then it would kick into my mid-roll at the relevant mid-roll section, and then finish off with my outro. So that's really easy to get them uploaded and added to either your content library. And again, you can either, if you're uploading files, you can upload from the content library. Now, there's a slight difference between episode audio and dynamic ad content, because we're giving you the choice to use show notes within the file and link to tracking links, etc. You can only upload one dynamic piece of content at a time, as opposed to the bulk episode audio that you can normally upload if you want to upload the next 10 episode audio files and then create episodes from within the dashboard. It's just one content for the dynamic content. So again, let's just go back to our files and let's go to desktop and let's go to AMIE. Here we go. And I'm going to use this one, open up here. Okay, so this is another trailer swap with another podcaster, for example. So the label was Mandy Promo Teaser. And again, I'm going to call this one Trailer Swap. But if that was a sponsor, I would just use third party sponsor. And then show note titles again, if you want to fill that out. Same with the show notes. And then if you did have an attribution link, you would choose which link you want to assign this piece of content to. So anytime that you add this piece of content to an episode, again, we'll automatically insert that link and any show notes that you fill out here into the episode show notes. So again, it makes it super easy for your show notes to have your sponsor message and a link that your sponsor or your trailer swap or whatever that looks like wants you to share. So really easy way to upload the dynamic content. I'm just going to grab a cup of tea. Now, the cool thing with AMIE as well is if you have a pre-roll and a post-roll that you use all the time. So maybe it's a stinger about the episode. Maybe it's your own default intro about the show, who you are, what the podcast is, etc. And I do that for one of my shows. I've got my intro and outro is set as my AMIE files as a default, and then it goes into the episode. So if I ever wanted to change up the intro or the outro, instead of having it hard edited into my episode file, I can just change the dynamic intro and the dynamic outro, and then it makes it super easy to keep my podcast up to date if the format changes, if it becomes a co-hosted show as opposed to a solo show, all that kind of cool stuff. So if you do have something like that, you can go into your podcast settings and go to the AMIE and DAX section. And here's where you can set a default pre and post roll. So you can see here, again, you can just add it from the content library or upload a new file, but I'm just going to add it from the content library. And once again, you can add up to 3 files here. We tend not to recommend you do this unless you wanted a whole bunch of ads at the start of your episode. And then, by all means, go that way. But like I say, think of the listener experience and what you would want to listen to as a listener. Would you want to listen to 2 or 3 different advertisements and sponsor messages before you get to the audio? So just think of that anyway. So I'm going to make this the intro. I'm going to make that my default intro. And then for my outro, I'm going to make there we go. I'm going to make that the outro for that. So I've confirmed that. So you can see here, I've got a default intro and a default outro. Now, just a quick heads up here. If you set up a default pre-roll and post-roll after you've already published episodes, the default will only start to come into effect from the episodes you create after you set up the default. Okay. So for the episodes I've already created, I would just have to go back and add the pre-roll and the post-roll into these episodes if they're different from what I've already got on these published episodes. But any episode you create from now on, we will automatically add the intro and the outro for you. So I'm just going to save and update. And you can see here, they've been saved there. So now, if I went to create new episode, for example, and just quickly add a file so AMIE can do its thing and start looking for files to add. If you come down here now, you can see that the pre-roll has already been added for you. And the post-roll is also already been added for you. And you can add tags here if you wish, but because it's default, we tend not to add tags at the default section. But as you say, that's already created for you. It's a nice way to sort of save time when you're doing your episodes, because all you then have to worry about is adding your episode audio and wherever you want to add your mid-roll content, for, again, sponsor messages, trailer swaps, all that cool stuff. Okay, so really easy to set up your default settings. Now, as I mentioned, I showed you how to use it in episodes. So it's really easy when you're creating an episode to insert the AMIE, etc. And so if you want to, as I mentioned, combine it with any attribution links. So here's my attribution links here, okay? But let's say I want to add another one. And I'm just going to go, let's go share the show. And I've got a link here, for example. Okay, this is going to be general. So in the type of attribution link when you're creating it, and again, we covered this in I think it was 2 live streams back. So the video's on our channel if you want to check that out. You have an option you choose in general, which is just like a general marketing link, affiliate, if you're creating an affiliate link here, or your donation. So if you've got like a PayPal me link or a buy me a coffee, or you use Captivate's tips feature, for example, you can, drop that in here. But I'm going to use it as general, and then I'm going to make it my share show. Okay. So I'm just going to add and enable that now and save changes. Okay. So now I've got a new link there. So now if I was wanting to use this link for another piece of content like AMIE, I would go into my content library and I would just look at the AMIE files that I've got. So you can see here, I've got all these AMIE files and some of them are in use, some aren't in use. But let's say I want to go to this one here. So the outro. Okay, so if I go to that and edit it, at the moment, I don't have any show notes or attribution links. But now let's say I wanted to say share the show. Okay. And once again, if I do some little blurbs, there we go. And I want to use the share the show attribution link, I can update the content I've already loaded with the new link. Okay. So really easy to use our marketing stroke attribution links with your dynamic content and make sure you're tracking them. You see how effective they are. So now if I went back to my episodes where I've got the outro, that may not have updated quite yet because I've the server needs to just refresh that on the website. Let's just have a quick look on that. There you go. So it's got share the show. So it has actually got it in there already. So you can see here, because I've updated the existing dynamic content and I've added some show notes information as well as a tracking link, that's been updated into the Captivate website. It's also been updated into the Captivate player if you use the Captivate player. And if you have the Captivate Sync WordPress plugin and use that on your WordPress website, that will also update your show notes for the episodes that you've got this dynamic content installed in. And again, if you've got this obviously submitted to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc., your Captivate feed will update that change automatically and immediately. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc., they will update with that change to the show notes, but it might take a little bit longer because they cache media files. So the next time that they refresh their own server and their own feed ingestion, that will then pull that update to the show notes into Apple, into Spotify, into Pocket Casts, etc. So again, really cool way to add new promos, and get them inserted into your existing podcast and show notes, etc. Okay, so that's the way you can use it with our attribution links. But there's another cool feature that makes it super easy to manage your dynamic content. Because let's say you've got a podcast that you've had a while and you've got 10, 20 different mixes of sponsor messages, internal updates, trailer swaps, all the good stuff that you would normally do with dynamic content, intros, outros, all that stuff. The last thing you want to do is have to go back and do one by one episodes and update, obviously, the mid-roll for 50 episodes or the pre-roll for 50 episodes, etc. So what you can do is use the bulk editor that Captivate enables for you when you've got AMIE in your episodes. So if you come down to the left-hand navigation part of your dashboard under AMIE, you will see bulk add editor. And there's a few ways you can do this. So let's just click into that now. And you can see here, once I open the bulk editor window, there's a few options that you've got. So you can change pre and post roll ads. You can remove them altogether. You can manage mid rolls. So again, if you've got any mid rolls in your episodes, you can manage them all at bulk, or you can use replace tagged ads. And you can see here, the 4 tags that I've currently got in use are all appearing here. And this makes it super easy to replace it bulk. But let's just go through each one by one. So if you wanted to change the pre and the post roll ads, so again, if you're using it for an intro and outro and you've got a new version, or you've got an advertiser message and you've now got a new sponsor and you need to change it up, whatever the reason is to change up, you can come to change pre and post roll and then select the episodes that you want to change. So at the moment, I've only got pre-roll and post-roll in this episode because that's where I added it when I created it, or, while we're going through that feature. If I had it here, I would then, also be able to replace them here. But what I want to do is, because I don't have any here, maybe I can add them now. So if I want to go to Content Live, and you can also filter, so you can change it by the date range. So again, if you've got a lot of episodes, but you only want to change the date range for the summer promo that might run in Q2 or Q3, you could select the date of July 1 to July, August, September, September 30. So that would be Q3. And then that would just be any episodes that were published between July 1 and September 30 would appear in this list. And that's the only ones that you would then change the files for. So again, you can really make it super easy to filter which episodes you want to update in bulk. But I'm going to leave it as it is because I've only got a few episodes here. So I'm going to add it from the content library. And let's say I want to make this one the new intro, outro, etc. All right, pre, post roll. So confirm selected titles. Okay, so this is the one I want to change it to. And again, if you haven't tagged it when you uploaded it, you can tag it here. Right, sorry, if you're not tagged it in the episode, you can tag it here. If it's a new file, for example. So you can just make it super easy. So now let's just call this Q4 or Q3 promo. Okay, so now I've got the Q3 promo, which is cool. All right, so that's great. And that's adding a new tag, which again makes it super easy to manage this one down the line. So this is my pre-roll that I want to swap. Do I want to swap the post-roll? Let's say I do want to swap the post-roll. So now I'm going to go for this one and confirm that. And I'm going to make that Q3 outro. Okay, so there we go. Again, just keeping it nice and updated with the tags, so it makes it super easy for me to update down the line like this. So now I want to choose which, so I've got my content, I've got that here. Which episodes do I want to use? Do I want to do them all, or do I want to just do the episodes 3 and 2? Because generally you won't have a pre-roll or a post-roll on your trailer. So let's take off the trailer and just update episodes 2 and 3. Okay, and then hit replace ads. And then we'll just give you a quick confirmation so you don't make any, mistakes when you're changing details up. And then just confirm replacement if you're happy with this information. And what you'll see now is it's gone back to this sort of little, what is that, little brownie rustic color. So it's now processing the changes for you. So it's taken out the existing ads or the dynamic content, and it's replacing that with the new dynamic content. Once that's processed, that will then change the orangey, brownie color, whatever you want to call that color, into green. So you can see episode 3 is updated, and we're still just processing episode 2, but that's the pre-rolls and the post-rolls changed for these episodes. And again, that will be updated automatically and immediately on your Captivate RSS feed. And if you're using our website, player, etc., it would update then. And for for Apple, Spotify, etc. Just the next time they ingest their feed update. And you can see that it's all changed up to date now. So that's perfect. Awesome. If I go into the episode quickly, you can now see if I go down to the dynamic content, there's my promo swap, and there's my promo swap here, and there's my Be a Better Podcaster outro trailer that I just added. So it's all updated, it's got the proper stuff. Awesome, we're good to go. So if we go back to the bulk ad editor again and remove pre and post roll, so this is where you want to pull them out altogether and you don't have any to replace them with. You just want to stop using pre and post roll. You can do that here. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to select this episode here, episode 3. Okay. And I want to remove the pre and post roll. Okay. But this one, I'm actually, and we'll give you a bit more information as to what you've currently got set up. So you've got a default pre-roll intro, default post-roll outro. And you want to clear your default pre-rolls and clear your default. I don't want to clear my default because I still want them to appear in other episodes. But if you were changing up your default pre and post-roll, you could do that here as well. Okay. But I just actually want to take out the pre-roll because now I'm going to go to like a cold open. For example, when my episode starts, I've got a snippet of audio that's going to go in that way. So I'm just going to remove the pre-roll ads for this one. Okay. So now you can see again, we've come back to episode 3. Episode 2 has not been touched. The trailer's not been touched, obviously, because there's nothing there to touch. So episode 3 is now processing. And once again, once that's processed, that will turn to green and the pre-roll will be removed for that episode. And you'll be good to go with the episode audio starting with that cold, start that you have. So let's just click in there now that it's processed and scroll down. And again, you can see there's no pre-roll there. It's been taken out. Really easy to manage at bulk. The mid-rolls is, again, if you've got multiple mid-rolls, this is where you would come in to do that. So at the moment, I've just got the mid-roll in this episode. So I want to manage the mid-roll in this. So do I want to add content? I want to select content here. So for the mid-roll, let's say I want to get this promo swap and confirm that. Okay, so I've got that and I want to save and process that. So now you can see that I've got, I want 2 mid-rolls to be in here. Okay, so that's in there. That's the ones that I want to be replacing. So at the moment, save and process and confirm. I'll just go through that again because I clicked the wrong thing there. Yeah, that's why I've got my little OK error message. And so I just want to have the 2. Let's delete that. Okay, remove. And there we go. So we got that. Save and process. And confirm. There we go. Okay, so I'll go through that again just to show you what that looked like because I did it a little bit backward there. My bad. So let's go to the bulk ad editor again. So at the moment, I don't have any mid-rolls in my second episode or my first episode, this one here. Let's get chit-chat. So that's the trailer. Let's say I want to do it in bulk here and I want to make sure to add a slot and select content. And I'm going to make that here, confirm. Okay. And then I want to change this one up here. So this one, I want to select this slot. And this will be replaced by the content you select below. So that's where I've got this new one that I want to go into the mid-roll. So that's good. Save and process, confirm that. Okay, so once that's in. Okay, so that's fine. No worries. We do set a limit of 3 bulk edits per day, just to make sure that, the amount of processing that can happen is, it can, slow down the servers, etc. If you get that message, just jump into our support team and we'll reset the bulk limit for you, as long as obviously it's not 1,000, 10,000 episodes, etc. But that's okay, no worries. You can see there how you can do the bulk edits with the mid-roll option. And then just to finish off, so let's go back to the bulk edit features. So where's AMIE? Back up here. There we go. Discard. So yeah, if we go to replace tagged ads content, and again, I'll probably get that limit message here, so that's fine. We probably won't do that, but essentially, if you go to replace tagged ads, let's just bring that refresh because I'm still in the previous screen. Okay, once this loads. Okay, so we'll go to replace tagged ads and just let it load in. Yeah, so that's why I'm getting that error message here. Okay, why is the tag not appearing? Let's have a look. I wonder if it's because I've got the message here. Okay, no worries. So with the tagged ads content, let me just see if I can reset this quickly. Yeah, I'm just getting that message there. That's I should have got that preset. So let me just see if let's see if Ben can do this for me actually while we're on here. All right, Ben, if you can go to this chit chat with Claire and Steve show me and just reset my bulk limit or bulk edits limit, let me know. That'd be awesome, mate. Just drop it in Slack if you can just update that quickly. So yeah, this is this is the cool thing with live stream. Obviously, if you reset the limits, you need to do that, while we're doing a live stream. But anyway, so with the tagged ad content, as you saw before when I jumped into the screen originally, you saw the tags that were there. So essentially, what you would do is you would select the tags that you want to replace and go through the same option. Let me just see if I've got that reset yet. Okay, still there. Okay, no worries. We'll just go and Ben clearing that off. So what I'm going to do for now, I'm going to stop the sharing and we'll just see if there's any questions popped in for now. And then we'll come back into it once Ben's got me on. So let me just bring up that up. Oops, that's not me. There we go. Alrighty. So let's have a look questions then. Let's just go through the question. And then, like I say, Ben, just drop in Slack once you've updated the limits, mate, and I'll go back into the tag editor to all right, question. There we go. Okay, Michael. Can we dynamically or individually en masse insert ads into previous episodes? Yeah, for sure. And once Ben's got the limit set, we can go and show you. But yeah, it's really easy. And I think I probably showed you that whilst I was going through the live stream, mate. But yeah, you can do it en masse with previous episodes. So essentially, you would go into the bulk editor, whether that's the pre-roll, post-roll, mid-roll, etc. Select the episodes that you need to update, and then just take out the ads that you already have and replace them, or insert the new ones. If you don't have ads currently, insert the new ones as pre-roll, post-roll, or mid-roll, and that will update your old episodes too. Okay. There are, yeah. I know, and that's the thing with live streams. Obviously, when you've got features and you try to show all the features, we can only go through, a set amount of time with each feature. But yeah, we've got almost 200 help articles on our Captivate Resource Center, and there's about 7 or 8 all dedicated to AMIE and how to use it. So for pre-roll, post-roll, mid-roll, bulk editing, tagging, etc. It's all there under help.captivate.fm, and then you'll find the AMIE category. Just jump in there, and it's got all the walkthroughs and all the steps, etc., that really go deep into how to use AMIE for all the different features on that. There we go. So yeah, Michael, Ben's just dropped that in there. So just again, so Ben, if you're able to go into chit chat with Steve and Claire, mate, or Claire and Steve, is it? Chit chat with Claire and Steve, and just reset my AMIE limits, my bulk limits. That'd be cool. And just drop into Slack when you've done that, and I'll jump back in to show how the tagged editor works. But yeah, if you've any questions in the meantime on what we've gone through so far, like I say, drop them in the comments, and we will pick that up for you. Okay. I don't think it was bloody, but Kipper says no, it wasn't. So I'm not sure. It shouldn't be because it's the same settings as we normally use. So it shouldn't be blurry. But yeah, let me know. It looks like it was okay. But we'll see. Okay, I'll just have a quick look while we're waiting here. And okay, so I've still got still got the limit there. So just wait for that getting updated. Okay, while we're doing that, actually, let me just bring this up. So let me go back here and share screen. The audio cut out. Is it cut out now, or is it still out? Should be okay, Kipper. It's looking all good this end, mate. Anyway, so let me share screen while we're getting this sorted out. Reset. Okay, so I think Ben's reset, so let's just have a look at that. All right, perfect. Cheers, Ben. So let's just share screen again. We'll go through the tagged one. Okay. Okay. Okay, there we go. So that should be back up now. So we've now got the bulk editor. So if we go to replace tagged ads, and that should bring the tags up. Why is that not appearing? So let's have a look at this. Oh, you know why? Because I removed. Okay, that makes sense. I removed the content that had the tags in it. So let's just bring it up there. So summer, even experienced users of Captivate make little errors. So let's go to summer promo. Okay, and I'm going to quickly do that and then add a content library for post row, outro, and then let's just add tag there. So yeah, when you're removing, should I mention that? When you're removing AMIE files, just make sure that, that if you've got tagged content, you're replacing it with other tagged content. Okay, so let me just scroll down here and update that for you. My apologies, my bad. Okay, so we got tagged content there as processing. So let's go back to bulk ad editor and let's go to replace tag. There you go. Yeah. So I took out the audio that didn't have the tags in it. So that was my stupidness. I apologize for that, everyone. Okay, so you come to replace tagged ads. So you can see here that we've now got the tag summer promo and outro. And as you add more AMIE files and update them with tags, more tags will appear here, which makes it really easy to replace. Okay, so I want to replace the summer promo, for example. So I want to replace add content. So at the moment, I've only got the one episode that's been tagged with the summer promo, and it tells you here what the current AMIE file is. So it's a 5RQ promo swap. So I just want to change that up. So let's just change that now. And I want to replace selected ad content with this one here. So I want to have a new mid-roll with this one and replace the 5RQ. So confirm and continue. And you can now see here that that's been changed and you've successfully updated the selected ad content for this episode. It's in the same slot position because all you're doing is replacing the file as opposed to creating a new mid-roll slot or deleting, etc. But you can also remove it as well. So if you want to remove the mid-roll altogether, you can do that here. What we do recommend is if you've got a mid-roll that's a sponsor message, but you don't have a sponsor lined up for the following month, for the following period of time that you have any promos in place for, either replace your sponsor with your own internal mid-roll. So like I say, it could be a call to action about leaving a review, following the show, sharing it with friends, sign up to a newsletter, whatever you want to call it. Or if you don't have any lined up and you've already got your own call to action for an internal shout out, create a tiny little snippet of silent audio, less than half a second, between two seconds or whatever, and use that as your mid-roll. That acts as a placeholder. So when you do get a new sponsor message or a new mid-roll file, you can replace the silence with your new sponsor message. And because it's such a tiny piece of silence, it won't be audible when you play the episode without any ads or sponsor messages. It'll just have that tiny little bit of silence, but that's already there for your mid-roll. So you can see here, that's how easy it is to replace existing mid-rolls using the tag feature. And the reason I prefer using the tag option is if you've got 100 episodes and you want to change a whole bunch mid-rolls, you can use the bulk edit option for manage mid-rolls, but you would do that on a per episode basis. You can go through obviously and just check the little checkbox and do it that way, super quick. But it can be, a lot of work if you've got hundreds of episodes with mid-rolls in there. So with the tag feature, all you need to do is choose the tag. So let's discard that. Choose the tag you want to replace, and that will automatically replace the mid-roll for all these episodes to start with. So, it just makes it a far more easier and effective way to actually replace the mid-roll. So that's how to use that. And as I mentioned, if you go to your link analysis option, so I've added links to my AMIE files. I've created attribution links. I've not got any data here because at the moment no one's clicked the links, obviously. But if it was on, let me just jump over to one of my other podcasts that's got information. There we go. So if I go to link analysis, for example, and I look at the links that I've created for the AMIE files and I've added that to my show notes, etc., you can see here, based on the date range for the reporting, you can see which ones have got the most clicks. So my contact, that Mandy Kaplan promo that I shared earlier, for example, more apps review the show. So it's a reason, it's a great way to keep tabs of how effective your marketing is, by ensuring that any dynamic content that you upload, whether that's a sponsor message, an advertisement, an internal update, etc., we always recommend create an attribution link for it, and we will track that for you. It's a great way to see if your marketing's being effective. Okay, so now that we've got these little tech gremlins out of the way, let me come back in. Steve Kipper had a question, so let's just have a look at that. You're very welcome, Michael. Cheers, mate. You're very welcome. Can you stack AMIE spots in a row, like two? Yeah, for sure. You can do that. You can stack it if you wish, Kipper. So let me just bring that back up for you, and I'll show you exactly how to do that, mate. Let's just hold on. Cancel. So let's just bring the share screen up again. Okay. And let's just make sure we've got the right. There we go. Okay, so when you're in here and you're doing the episodes, okay, so let's go to here on the most recent episode, for example. So as you can see, I've got one mid-roll here at the moment. I can go and add as many as I want. So well, not as many, up to 3, I should say. Okay, so that's cool. So I've got confirmed that. So I've got 3 slots here. I'm not going to tag them because we know how to do that. But now I also want to add another slot. So let's see, I want to add one here. Okay, so I'm going to add slot, and I'm going to choose which files I want to add here. So once again, I'm going to add 2 for this one. Okay, but once again, I'm not going to tag them. So now you've got multiple mid-rolls, and you've got 2 here, which you can drag and drop. So they're now stacked on top of each other. And then you've got 3 here in the different slot, the later slot. And again, they're stacked back to back. So now all these 3 mid-rolls will play after each other. So this will be the first one, this will be the second one, this will be the last one. Now you could, if you wanted to, drag this along here and make it play very closely to this ad section. We wouldn't recommend it because you're going to give your listeners ad and sponsor message overkill with mid-rolls. So obviously, going back to that sort of, golden timeline, we recommend for every 15 minutes, that would be a 1 ad slot. 30 minutes time, another mid-roll, 45, another mid-roll. That's a nice sort of break. It allows you 15 minutes or so of episode audio, and then whatever your mid-roll is, you could add it there. It's entirely up to you. You obviously know your audience better, but just think of the listener, experience when it comes to adding ads and how many you want to play in the mid-roll. One of the things I do with one of my mid-rolls is I'll have my own internal intro, if you own internal mid-roll, if you like, and then a sponsor message. So that might be a trailer swap, it might be an actual sponsor, and then my own one will be, hey, thanks for listening. If you want to support the show, you can do that here, that kind of stuff. That would be my sort of 2 default mid-rolls, and then it makes it super easy. If I want to change up my internal one, I have the tag for internal promo. I swap that out. I also have the tag for default mid-roll or sponsor mid-roll, for example, and swap that out. And that way it keeps it nice and tidy and super easy for me to manage. But yeah, like I say, Kipper, you can do that. You can stack them this way. You can drag and drop as well. So even if you want to keep the same mid-roll ads, but now you just want to change them up a little bit. So you've had sponsor 1 is the first one, and then sponsor 2 is the second message, and then your own internal message is the third one. Maybe you want to put sponsor 2 as the lead into the mid-roll, and then sponsor 2, and then sponsor 1 would be the second mid-roll, and it would still be your internal, call to action, etc. for the mid-roll there. So you can drag and drop and, change up how the mid-rolls play when someone listens to them. You can remove them at ease, you can replace it with a new one, etc. So really easy to do. And like I say, yeah, you can definitely stack, etc. Okay. So let's just come back to, there we go. Okay, so I think that covers that one. So yeah, we've got about another 5 minutes or so before we start wrapping this one up. So yeah, if there's any questions about Captivate's AMIE, obviously, because that's who we are, and that's what we've gone through today in the live stream, or dynamic content, best practices, etc., drop them in the comments. Happy to answer. One of the things I mentioned earlier is a lot of people think of dynamic inserts as just purely for ads and sponsor messages, and generally that's what they're used for. But you can use that as keeping your podcast really up to date, and especially with time sensitive content. So let's say you're on offer and you're doing a live book signing in London, for example, on July 30th. So what you can do is create a little audio recording of yourself just saying, hey, I'm going to be in London at Bookstore X on such a date from this time. And I'm going to be signing copies of my new book. We're going to have some cool giveaways. We're going to do like a chapter read, all that cool stuff that you normally do with a book signing, for example. You can record that, upload that as a dynamic content, and then add that as either as a pre-roll across all your old episodes as well. So no matter when someone starts to listen to your podcast, they're going to be told that you're appearing at such and such a place on this date at this time. If they're in the area, they can then go along and and check that out. Then you can use our expiry option. So you can then remove that piece of content out after July 30th. So on July 31st, that dynamic content can come out, or you can go into your bulk editor that I just showed you and just remove at scale and remove that across all your episodes. So now that out of date piece of content is no longer in your episodes. So it's a really cool way to keep all your episodes up to date with your own announcements, your own promos, etc. So again, nice way to use dynamic content outside the normal sort of ads and sponsor messages. Trailer swaps, they're awesome. One of the best ways to grow your podcast is connecting with a podcaster that's in your niche. It doesn't have to be like in the very same specific niche or topic as your podcast, but complementary. So if you have, for example, a podcast about vegan lifestyles, and maybe there's another podcaster that's got amazing vegan recipes, for example, or vegan stores that you can use, that are really cost effective, whatever that might look like. You can run a trailer swap, so that person can send you their trailer and you can send them your trailer. Or if you cut an actual dedicated promotional piece of audio for that, you can swap that. They can then play that on their podcast to their audience and vice versa. And it really helps. That's been my best growth option. Obviously, I've got a newsletter and social media and all that cool stuff. But in all honesty, trailer swaps, promo swaps with other podcasters have by far and away been my best growth option when it comes to my podcast, purely because you're being put in front of listeners to your niche and they're already on their preferred podcast app listening to the podcast that you're doing a swap with. So it's super easy for them to click the link in that podcast show notes and follow your podcast right away on the app that they're currently on. So it's a great way to use dynamic content and change out. I do a monthly trailer swap. So every month I have a new trailer with another podcaster that automatically I set that to load up each month. And it's a really cool way to do that. Yeah, Kipper, I've done trailer swaps and that before, mate. So yeah. But yeah, it's like it just keeps your content up to date. It's really good as well for if you've got a daily news briefing, for example. So let's see, James over at Pod News has a daily news briefing with Pod News. Awesome podcast and newsletter. And let's say a piece of news came out about Spotify and Daniel Ek stepped down or whatever. James might want to go back into older episodes that might have mentioned Daniel, for example, and just update a little bit of dynamic content with the news. Hey, breaking on July 23rd, Daniel Ek stepped down from Spotify as the CEO or whatever that is. It's a really cool way to make sure that your older episodes are super up to date, no matter what the content is, etc. Okay, so that's Captivate's AMIE. In the next one, I think we're out of questions. If you've got another question, if you want to drop it in quickly, I'm happy to pick that up. I'm just going to start wrapping up soon. But if you do have a question, drop it in below with the question. Next week on July 30. Well, I mean, I've been, in fairness, Michael, I've been using Captivate for 6 years now. Wow, yeah, 6 years. In October, I've been a Captivate podcaster. Before I joined the team, I was a user of, and still am a user of Captivate. But I obviously have to do a whole bunch of testing and that. So thank you. Normally when I'm doing it myself, I might, do a bit more time. But yeah, next week is dynamic show notes, which are awesome. A really cool way to, again, save you time on production of your podcast, which allows you to spend more time on creating your content and then promoting it, marketing, etc., to grow it. So the dynamic show notes are really cool. It allows you to set up default templates. You can use blocks and shortcodes, etc. And the great thing with the block feature, because they're all dynamic, again, if you need to update any information on past episodes and your show notes, using the block feature on dynamic show notes updates all at once in bulk. So that's next week. Looking forward to that, because that would be another good one. Yeah, you weren't far behind me, if I recall, early 2020. You know what? I may have even spoken to you when you joined up in the support queue. Who knows? But yeah, it's been a while. Oh, it's 2020. Time flies, mate. Anyway, so I'm going to start wrapping up. I hope this has been useful. And as I mentioned, if you've got any queries about AMIE and the dynamic content platform, if you're in the Captivate dashboard as a user, at the bottom right of this the window is our little chat icon. If you're on the Captivate website because you're not a user but you're curious about Captivate and the dynamic tools, then the little icon at the bottom right of your website browser is our chat icon too. Hop in there. The support team's always around to answer any questions you have. Also, help.captivate.fm is our full resource center, and it's got a whole section dedicated to AMIE in dynamic content, how to use it, how to use pre, post, mid-roll, default, all the stuff that we covered today. You can go through at your own pace. Okay, so thanks again for joining this week's live stream. I apologize for the earlier tech snafus with the limits, etc. But we got through it again. So whatever you got coming up for the rest of the week, whatever you got coming up for the weekend, I hope you have an awesome time. I hope you have like some great podcast episodes coming out, and we'll see you same time, same place next week. Until then, take care and happy podcasting.